by the end of the season, I felt like we were right there, but there was mistakes that I made as well along the way with the pace that we had. Like I just didn't need to make. So, typically, I look at that stuff pretty hard on myself, and definitely going to work hard to be better at that point. I think pace wise, I think we've got really good pace as a team and even myself, but I need to be more consistent. I need to be more, on the ball with a few things, and I know I've got that in me. It's just a matter of just simplifying some of the process, and we'll be okay.
This is the KTM Summer Grill. My name is Andrew Van Leeuwen. I'm joined by Simon Chapman and Supercars, modern Supercars legend, I would say, turned IndyCar ace, Scott McLaughlin. Scotty, thanks for joining us. I mean, when you first jumped on the call there, we could see the baby crib, I think it's called in the States, in the background. Life has sure changed for you this year.
Oh yeah, it's ripping.
How's it all going?
It's good. I probably a lot of like sleepless nights and stuff, but me and Carly are sort of teaming up there, and having had a lot of fun with it. She does like the 1 a.m., 2 a.m. feed, and then I jump in and do the sort of 7 a.m. bottle feed, which is pretty helpful. Which I have a lot of fun with. We're learning a lot along the way, and I'm really enjoying being a dad, man. It's been a ball, as you know, and I just can't wait for it to get bigger. But these times are so cool as well.
What's life generally like? I mean, we had a chat sort of mid-season on the hard card, and you talked about the fact that life felt pretty normal in the States now. Like you just feel fully integrated in that. What was a new life? Does it just feel like your normal life now?
Yeah, definitely. Like now we sort of set up some roots here, and we bought a house, and now sort of doing bits and pieces around the house and gardens and all that jazz. Like it's starting to feel a little bit more at home. You certainly miss your friends and stuff back home, but overall it's slowly starting to feel a lot more now. And now we've had Lucy. It's definitely probably made me feel more closer and in touch with this place, but at the same time, always keeping a keen eye on what's happening back home, and whether that's with my friend, with racing, with politics, like anything, like just checking it all out, and it's always pretty exciting for sure.
Moving over to the States, what was sort of the biggest thing that you sort of had to get your head around?
Uh, I think just the culture differences between like like the differences from north, south, east, west, different accents, different food. Like it's such a big country. And one thing that's here is it's just there's so I think they take for granted how big their country is and what they can do, the opportunity they have. And I think for anyone that comes, whether it's myself, Shane, Mark Armstrong, anyone that comes over here from New Zealand or Australia, you realize, just how big this country is and what you can do and possibly achieve, which is cool. But I think we have such a great, we make a lot of bang for our buck, you could say, like down under, like we have such a cool, I guess you take for granted the safety you have there and all that sort of stuff as well. Like you're not saying this is unsafe here, but you don't sort of second guess a lot of things like in Australia than you do here. So, but it's a lot of fun, and got a lot of friends here now, and really enjoying life.
There was a good photo that you posted, I think, a few weeks ago of yourself and Shane hanging out, watching football, wearing football jerseys. Do you actually get to spend a bit of time with Shane now that you guys aren't on-track rivals?
Yeah, it's super weird now. It's super weird. Like we were always friends, like to a point, but obviously our teams hated each other. So like it was just one of those things. We were sort of looking after that part, but I think I got him in trouble because he was drinking Coors Light, and he's a Bush Light guy, so he had to delete that photo. But it's American life, right? But no, we've had a ball. He actually went to his first game on the weekend. He was still in another spot, but he's slowly starting to like the American football, and you sort of got to get. It's kind of like AFL or rugby or any rugby league back home or whatnot. Like you've got to kind of get into it because it's quite a good conversation starter with people over here. So I found myself a Panthers fan and sort of enjoying the ride.
season 2024, how do you reflect on it? You know, kind of a title contender, but not winning the title. Good season, bad season. Where do you sit on it?
Yeah, I think from an execution point, I'd say probably like a B plus. I thought we won equal most amount of races I've won in a season. Won the pole championship, which was a good thing. So we had plenty of pace, but obviously the St. Pete, that stuff that happened and all that stuff that took us sort of out of contention. By the end of the season, I felt like we were right there, but there was mistakes that I made as well along the way with the pace that we had. Like I just didn't need to make. So, typically, I look at that stuff pretty hard on myself and definitely going to work hard to be better at that point. I think pace wise, I think we've got really good pace as a team and even myself, but I need to be more consistent. I need to be more, on the ball with a few things. And I know I've got that in me. It's just a matter of just simplifying some of the process, and we'll be okay.
Is that still part of the integration process, going from being a touring car driver to driving high aero open wheelers? Like, it couldn't be more different.
Yeah, I think there's definitely still things that I'm like. So there's things that I went to, whether it was the way I set up my steering rack or stuff, just to make it feel like, like the supercar, or how much I used to turn the wheel and stuff. And now I'm sort of getting away from that, and I'm sort of, going back to how I originally had it. So I went one way because I just needed that for the feel at that point in time. But now I'm finding myself more of an open wheeler driver. So I'm coming back to the normal open wheeler setup. And then I guess in some ways is just understanding the championship. I made a couple of moves during the year. I think one Laguna Seca with my teammate Will, and stuff that I didn't need to make, because I would only gain 3 or 4 points. If that was supercars back in the day, I'd understand the point system. I'd probably be, I would have just sat there and taken the seventh or sixth or whatever I was going to be. Um, so just after that, I sort of learned. It's a learning process, and I stuffed that up a bit, and still kicking myself over a couple of those mistakes. But yeah, I think it's just learning the series. I think I'm done sort of learning the car itself. It's just finding the right groove for me, setup wise and whatnot.
Yeah, and you talk about those numbers, like 7 podiums, 3 wins. I think it's 5 pole positions. But I guess the difference between yourself and Alex this season is just that consistency, right? Like, I think your average finish was about 9th, whereas Alex was, I think, a 6.5. So do you sort of look at what Alex has done and say, okay, like that is basically the formula for success?
Yeah, I mean, we've looked at the last few years, like a seventh average in this day and age with how competitive everything is decent, and I think we knew that going in, and just the ninth and just that sort of average just doesn't cut it. So yeah, we can qualify all we want, but we also made a couple little mistakes strategy wise and not capitalizing on the position we have. And sometimes things in IndyCar get weird as well, with the cautions and how they fall. And it just wasn't our year. But like I said, we showed plenty of pace. So I guess the hard part in that regard, we've got to keep our work going. But I think we're in a good spot to build on this, and I've got a lot of confidence to like push on to the next step.
There's absolutely no doubt that you guys have got speed, right? Between yourself and Will, you've got the equal most podiums across the season. Joseph was ridiculously quick as well, right?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think, and that's a testament to the team. I think the biggest thing for us was Indy. We just didn't really have the pace there, and for us to come out and sweep the front row, like that was huge. I got pole, which was great, but I think for the whole team to sweep the front row, that was a pole for the team. Like, it was unreal, and hard to do in this day and age. Like with Ganassi and Ed Carpenter Racing, McLaren now. There's so many like big teams. Andretti's like got a big influx of cash these days. Like it's full on. So I'm really excited for next year. I think we got a lot of momentum. We go to a new broadcasting partner here in the States next year, so that's going to be massive for our sport, and just really really enjoying the ride.
Lots of big achievements this year. Indy 500 pole position, having your daughter. Which one takes the cake?
Oh man, you get me in trouble one way or the other. No, I think no. My daughter, obviously, but the pole was just behind her. But no. I think you know the adrenaline rush of the two were very similar. I'll give you the tip.
Tell us about that that whole month of May. Like, that was just ridiculous. I think a lot of people expected you to be a championship contender, but a lot of people probably would have put either Will or Joseph ahead of you to probably get pole position. So to actually deliver on the day in the way that you did, that must be massively satisfying.
Oh, it was awesome. I mean, I think the laps that like the run that didn't get the most probably coverage, I guess, in some ways was probably my first like my fast 12 pole lap because that really got me. I got ahead of Will then, so it made me last out in that shootout, the last six. So, I had better track conditions. I knew what setup those guys were running, and I just sort of knew what process I had to do. And I've always felt confident, like around the qualifying there, just like it just felt like four shootout, like supercar shootout laps. It's a pretty cool thing. So, but yeah, that was a proud moment, and I remember like literally the first lap that came on the dash, like I was like, holy crap, like this is no joke. Like this is going to be a big run. And then the second lap came up, and I'm like, oh, well, like just keep it together, basically. And you don't see it on like that last lap. Like that was hard. Like hot going through one, there was like shade on the inside, like, on the entry to one, and then sun on the exit, and it would create a completely different balance for the car. And at those speeds, like the walls creep up on you quick. And I was quite wide there, we got away with it. But I knew once I got out of two, I just had to bring it home, and it was one of the best feelings I've ever had.
How much did you learn from that race?
Yeah, a ton. I mean, I just learned the cadence of the race. It was probably the first time I ran up the front the whole time. I knew that I had to. I was really aggressive on the restarts because I knew I had to be at the front of those front three positions as much as I could. And we had a little, basically from the start of the race. Unfortunately, we had a clutch issue, so my bite point was really weird, and it really hurt us the whole race. So, just when the green flag stops happened, it was okay in the yellows. I'd maybe lose one spot, but once I got to the green flag running, I was losing half a second to a second just getting out of the box, and you just can't lose that. So, but it's just one of those races like Bathurst. You just got to get yourself to those final two stops and be in the running and see where it all shakes out. And unfortunately, we weren't, but I learned a ton, man.
A lot of when a driver's coming out of F1, for example, when they get linked to IndyCar, we've seen guys even like Daniel Ricciardo say, I just don't know about doing those ovals. It seems pretty scary, but you really seem to adapt to that, given how different it is to everything else you've done super quickly. Do you ever think about the danger element, or is it something you've just been able to shut out and go racing on those ovals? How does that kind of work in your head?
Look, it's really not like it's really not that bad. Like it's a like the ovals are they're the Indy part of IndyCar DNA. And I respect those guys and how they look at it. But it's certainly from the outside, you think, far out, we're going quick. There's things that can happen for sure. But there's things that can happen. Like you look at Grosjean's Bahrain crash, like that can just happen out of the blue. I mean, like it's motorsport. It's why we go racing. But I understand that part of your career, you may not want to risk that much. And it definitely is a bit of a risk at those speeds. I remember my crash in 22, like that was where I realized I'm like far out, like we're moving, like it all happened so fast, and I was rolling halfway around the track without any power on. It was just like I was just a pinball machine. So it's a danger, but like it's like I said, it's part of the DNA of IndyCar racing. And I think when you come here and you just do like Grosjean did, he sort of just did the road and street courses, and then realized how important and how cool the racing on the ovals were. Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and that's why I think you see a lot of us wanting more oval racing because it's an absolute blast.
We have to touch on the disqualification from early in the season. What impact did that have on your year? How frustrating, or what's the sort of emotion when you reflect on that sort of start to the year and the knock-on effect of it?
Yeah, I mean, we came out of St. Pete obviously with a lot of momentum, and got through where the next it's Long Beach and whatnot, and obviously the penalty came, and it wasn't until sort of TC sort of spoke to me and said that I actually had pushed it as well. I didn't know, so it was frustrating, but it was the rules. We pushed the button, and it just yeah, it was a problem, but at the end of the day, I was just really proud of how we bounced back. I mean, like the next weekend after the penalty for us to basically sweep the pole and win and fastest in pit road and get the fastest lap, like that was huge. It was a huge confidence booster, but it didn't take away from the fact that that happened, and we were having to sort of get ourselves back into the points. But yeah, it's sort of one of those things you just had to get on with it. Frustrating, but it's a slap of the wrist that needed to happen. I fully respect what IndyCar said and what they needed to do and set a precedent in that regard. Um, but look back on it, disappointing, but like it is what it is. It's something that I feel like it's like character building, right? It's one of those ones where it's just like you just got to get on with it and learn and from my perspective, I felt like I found a lot of stuff in me to get around it.
Now you mentioned that you keep a pretty close eye on what's happening back here in Australia. Your old team DJR making some very big moves for 2025, signing Brody Kostecki, some big engineering changes, that sort of stuff. They seem to be having a pretty big swing at getting back to the benchmark that you helped them set, between 2018 and 2020. Are you excited to see what they're doing and the way they're building and trying to get back towards the front?
Yeah, it's I guess you look at it as like there was some great times we had with that engineering group that we had, and sometimes that just doesn't click with for various reasons with other drivers or whatnot, and it's sad to sort of like see that era of the team move, but at the same time, like, I am excited. I absolutely have an amazing soft spot for DJ and all the team back there, Ryan, and want them to do well, especially Car 17, and yeah, like it's exciting. I think someone like Brody, I think he's very, I think he wants it more than most, and you saw that with his, he's very technical and technically savvy and whatnot, and I think that's exactly what maybe just a refresh focus for the team. Yeah, I think from a perspective, it's obviously been a pretty disappointing couple of years for the team, but they've still showed some aspects of really good pace. It just didn't quite come together for them, but hopefully they can get some stability and get going. But yeah, keep always watch. I mean, I watched most of Adelaide actually because the time difference was a little bit better. It's hard to catch the races, but I watch the qualifying and practice normally, and yeah, I still absolutely enjoy the racing. Although I don't think the racing's that good at the moment. I just feel like it. Me and Shane have spoken about it a couple of times, just the way that it's transpired with the tires and how everyone's running right now. It's definitely would love to see it get like a bit more crowded, a bit more passing and whatnot. But yeah, still enjoying it.
Do you think that maybe the move to a more durable, softer compound tyre, bringing the finals in, that sort of stuff could help spice things up a bit next year?
Ultimately, when the final series come out, like I think that's pretty cool. Like it's something different for sure. You've got to create some spectacle around it, and I think I mean I love the format how it was when I was there because we were winning, but I think at the same time, like I think it would have been pretty spicy having it come down the end like at Newcastle and stuff. It's nerve-wracking for the teams, but I sort of like the way that Triple Eight were attacking it at Adelaide. They were sort of pretending like it was like the final series anyway, so it's a good practice for them. But yeah, I think we all complained about aero and dirty air and all that sort of stuff with the older cars, but ultimately that was better racing. So it's I feel like it's all very it's you can't have it all the way good, all the way bad. You just sort of got to find that happy medium, and I think they're still probably trying to find that. But yeah, I'm just glad to see like there was a lot of people right at the Adelaide, and the sport's obviously still in a pretty strong spot with Toyota coming in, which is really cool. So excited to see it.
For sure. In the past, you've said that maybe whilst getting up to speed with IndyCar, you weren't maybe too interested in looking at anything outside of single-seater racing at the moment. I know Shane mentioned that there might have even been a little bit of a possibility that you could have done the NASCAR Roval race at Charlotte earlier this year, if not for the wee baby's arrival. Was that an opportunity for you? And have you got any sort of thoughts on doing any extracurricular activities next year?
Like from my perspective, I'd love to run something, but yeah, I think it's all just for me. I've trusted what Roger and Tim have put forward for me for so long, and it's always been the right move for me. So I sort of just trust the process. Obviously, I'm itching to drive something. I certainly would love to, try other things. There's definitely things on my bucket list, but at the same time, I don't think I got my finger on the pulse right now on IndyCar. I feel like I need to get that sort of a little bit more. But like I'm like for sure interested, but I think in some ways Shane's filled that void for me. I'm really enjoying like watching him and seeing him go about it. I'm excited for his first full season. Like he's absolutely loving it over here, and it's awesome to sort of see the background of that and talk to him about it and whatnot, and see his progression. So I guess I'm sort of like living through him a little bit, which is kind of like I said, filling the void. And I'll just worry about my IndyCar stuff, and maybe if we do a couple of good things in IndyCar here in the next few years, hopefully we can you know end up with something else.
What do you think Shane's potential is next year? I think obviously there's a lot of expectation around him in terms of those street courses, the road courses. He's getting better on those short ovals, especially. He's mentioned that the next gen NASCAR is in many ways it's a bit like a supercar, whereas the Xfinity car. He says it drives a bit like a forklift. It's unlike anything he's ever driven. So with a car that's perhaps more to his liking or what he's comfortable with, do you think maybe he might exceed some expectations next year?
Yeah, I think it's all depends on the car he gets. Obviously, I think I think the Corlid car compared to the Trackhouse car probably wasn't the same spec. So I think I'm excited to see what he's like in like a Trackhouse sort of type car. I thought his run at Martinsville, the short oval there, was awesome. But like that's typically normally road course ringers, end up pretty good like on a place like Martinsville just with the braking and stuff. So I'm excited to see him like run like Bristol and all those big tracks, and for him to have already had a run on most of those tracks already, and understand like the turbulent air and the way that the track evolves over that time. He's going to be just fine, and I don't know, I don't know what to predict for him. It could be really, really, really good, which I kind of probably more expect, but it also could be the opposite because it does. You have sometimes the oval racing gives you a false sense of security. You feel one week you're really, really good, and then the next week you're absolute, dog poop. So, I am really excited, man. Like really excited to see how he goes. I think he's I always said if there's anyone that's going to come from supercars and jump straight into a NASCAR and go, well, it's him. He's got a technical savviness and how he goes about his racing. He's one of the smartest guys I've ever raced in my life. And I'm really, really happy for him.
Well, both you and Shane are doing a fantastic job of representing this part of the world on the world stage. So congratulations on that, Scott, and best of luck for the 2025 season. And thank you so much for joining us on the KTM Summer Grill.
No worries, boys. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for tuning in to the KTM Summer Grill. With each episode, we are giving away one of these cool KTM goodie bags. Don't miss your chance to win. If you're watching via Speed Cafe, enter your details below. If you're watching on YouTube, the link is in the description.